Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So I'm a little late this week. I apologize for that. I hope you guys understand. But as you guys know, chapter 1027 is out, both officially and unofficially. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so, because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. You know, I think that this chapter is best summed up as a continuation from the last chapter, the feeling that we are heading to the end game of Wano. Or maybe a better way to phrase this is, Kaido is soon to be defeated, and Wano will end shortly after that. That is certainly what Oda wants us to feel. But as I said last week, we'll see how it goes, and obviously we'll talk about this more as we get into the chapter. Let's start at the beginning. I really thought that the first panel of this chapter was noteworthy. We have a scene with Nekomamushi, Wanda, and Carrot. Carrot goes to hug Nekomamushi, who just defeated Perospero, and Nekomamushi says this: "Careful, Carrot. The sky suddenly got clear. You don't want to accidentally turn Sulong." I think this line accomplishes two things. First off, it sets the subject, right? We're talking about the sky clearing, and we're talking about the clash of Conqueror's Haki, right? That's a really good entryway into that being the focus of the chapter. From that standpoint, it makes sense. But it also accomplishes something else. It reminds us of how Sulong works. You just have to look at the moon and you transform. And it also acts as kind of a warning, like, be careful, you don't want to accidentally turn Sulong at this point in time. Why is Nekomamushi warning Carrot? Seriously guys, think about that for a moment. Carrot can transform into Sulong and she can transform back under normal circumstances, but right now Nekomamushi seems it's important to him for her not to transform at all. I think that this is Oda pretty subtly telling us that if Carrot and the others were to transform again, it wouldn't go well. Look guys, I know that I say this from time to time, maybe I sound like a broken record, but this is important. We know Oda bothered to include this detail in the story, that the Sulong transformation is very dangerous for minks, because unless they are sufficiently trained, they will lose their minds completely and attack anyone near them, even friends and allies. So it is in my opinion that at some point in the story, some mink that is not sufficiently trained is going to transform, and we are going to see this. And the person who sort of fits the criteria most as of right now is Carrot. Oda's been very manipulative about this, because Carrot has transformed into Sulong not once, but twice. But there are clues within the story that her training is not complete. Remember back in Whole Cake Island, after using Sulong for a very, very short amount of time, something started to happen to Carrot. She said that she was losing consciousness, and she had to leave the battle, run away, and cover her eyes quickly. That's likely because consequences were going to take effect soon. And in this arc, when she transformed into Sulong, she got saved essentially by the clouds, from whatever similar circumstances might have occurred. Even further than that, Sulong doesn't last very long because it is extremely taxing on a mink's physical body. The mink will expend all their energy and die after just a single night of usage. This is verbatim from the story. This is a Chekhov's gun. This is a detail Oda includes in the story that it needs to have some point, some purpose for being there. And typically Oda is very, very good at writing. He's very consistent with paying these off eventually. He'll take us down a long winding road, but eventually we'll find the reason why he included this. So again, I'll repeat, what you need to understand is that those that are not sufficiently trained will lose consciousness and start attacking anybody and everybody, and even those that are trained have the potential to die using Sulong after just a single night. And we're currently in the Fire Festival taking place. This whole battle is taking place over the course of a single night, and I promise you guys that we're not done yet. This is the arc of the mink battles, like, period. All the things relating to the mink transformations, the downsides of them, will most likely come into play in this arc, where you have the entire mink tribe fighting under a full moon. A situation like this probably is not going to happen again for the rest of the story. Oda is really, really good at foreshadowing, at planning, and I believe that's what this first panel is, when Nekomamushi bothers to tell Carrot, hey, sky got clear, don't accidentally turn Sulong. That's foreshadowing. This is a thing that I said a lot in the past, and I haven't said a lot recently, but when Oda's in his bag, it's usually hardest to believe a twist the moment that the twist is about to occur. There are times throughout the story where it'll be very obvious what is going to happen, like when Big Mom shows up, right? Or when Lola gives the V-Ray card to the Straw Hats. It's like, okay, well, this is probably this Yonko Big Mom's V-Ray card, right? So the community spends hundreds of chapters discussing, like, okay, well, Big Mom is going to be an ally of the Straw Hats because that's what Lola said, right? That she would give the V-Ray card and that her mother would help them. And then you actually meet Big Mom. This is what Oda does. You actually meet Big Mom, and it's like, oh no, Big Mom is actually an enemy. Can't be Lola's mother. He does this so many times, I have lost count. Another really good example is at the beginning of Zou, where Bariete falls off of Zou and lands on the Straw Hats climbing. And this clue was a little bit more obvious to Japanese reader than English ones, but Bariete talks like a samurai. So it's almost like an admission, right, that Bariete has history with, is familiar with samurai. Then we go through the arc in the flashback with Jack and such, and Oda goes out of his way to convince us that the Minks don't have any idea about any samurais. Oda sets the expectation, which is likely the truth, and then confuses us consistently. You know, this is kind of Oda's game. Be wary of what he is trying to make you believe. And right now, the feeling is, for me, and many others too, I'm gathering, that he's trying to make us believe that the arc is going to end very shortly. That Luffy is going to 1v1 fight Kaido, defeat him, probably go Gear 5th or Awakening, some such like this, and then Kaido will be defeated, and the arc will find a way to wrap up very cleanly. Be wary. Oda does not like when we predict everything. He does not like it. And just like Sanji earlier in the arc, he will go through massive hoops. He will take characters on long, winding journeys just to be sure that by the time that we get to a reveal that was at some point very obvious that everyone in the community thought, we won't think it at that moment. Oda will do his best to make sure that we won't believe it will happen the moment that it happens. And I think the things that we should be looking for here is Carrot going too long and going crazy, and Minks dying. Here in this arc, right now, there are still more twists and turns. You just gotta be patient. But yeah, this was just the first panel of the chapter. We then move on, and Yamato reflects on the journal and what Luffy and Kaido have just accomplished. Luffy split the skies just like Whitebeard and Roger, and it's kind of a reminder of the importance of last chapter, of like Luffy's feet. That's how I took that. We have a direct clash of two of the strongest people that existed in the world at their time being compared with a fight of Luffy and Kaido. So Oda's building Luffy up. Oda also backtracked a little bit on Yamato, where we saw her fight relatively equally with Kaido for a time, and then this chapter we see that she thought that she blocked his attack, but she didn't. She's badly damaged. I kind of dislike this kind of manipulation, right, where you think that a character's done something awesome, and then in the next chapter, the chapter after that, you come back to it and it's like, oh, actually, you know, the hype of that moment is totally fabricated. I'm not a big fan of that. However, it adds to my theory that Kaido was going easy on Yamato to some degree. And so even though it's kind of contrived that they're fighting, and so we start to put Yamato up on a higher level, it's fabricated hype, if there's like a reason for it, it would still satisfy me. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that Yamato is weak by any stretch of the imagination. It's more so like I want the Yonko to stand above by a pretty absurd level, right? I'm reminded of the scene earlier in Wano where Big Mom made Queen look bad, like bad. She tossed him around like a rag doll. It was obviously, you know, eventually his final attack or whatever beat the memories back into her or whatever, but you know, like the actual fight itself, just, you know, Yonko Big Mom is way stronger than Queen is. And so because Yonko is special, I don't like it when a character who I don't perceive as should be Yonko level fights a Yonko as an equal. Like the worst example I can think of something similar to this, and we've done a lot of Dragon Ball references, so we might as well continue here, is when Master Roshi fights Jiren. Like, it's not believable. I'm totally fine with Yamato being Yonko Commander level. Like, maybe even a little bit stronger than Queen. I am totally fine with that. I think that makes a ton of sense, and Yamato is incredibly strong. So that's kind of my headcanon. But then Yamato should fight Kaido like Queen fought Big Mom, which is, you stand no chance. But obviously Yamato did fight Kaido for a time as relative equals, so I like to build in excuses for that. Like, okay, Kaido was going easy on Yamato to some degree. Or Kaido is using an ability to lift all of an island, right? What toll does that take on Kaido? Is he weaker because he's doing this at the same time that he's fighting? In addition to this, he had all this fighting beforehand. So maybe these are the reasons that Oda had in his mind for why Yamato and Kaido were fighting as they were. But either way, at the end of the day, he sort of backtracked here in this chapter and reestablished, okay, Yamato not Yonko level at all. But anyway, from here, Yamato is injured and Momonosuke is a coward. So Luffy's basically like, hey, Yamato, go get Momonosuke and leave. I've got Kaido. I think Momonosuke had a really good line where he was called a coward, and he's like, shut up, I know what I have to do, but people do not change their natures in minutes. That's kind of what we've been saying about Momonosuke from the start. Yeah, he's older and such, but as a person, he hasn't really changed. The last chapter was a good stepping stone to get him to do something, but he hasn't all of a sudden completely changed as a person. I think that was an intelligent decision on Oda's part to sort of drag out his character arc further. The more stepping stones that you have from character point A to point B, the more believable it is. If Momo had just switched after last chapter, it's not that believable, but you give him one or two more instances like this, and then all of a sudden it's like, yes, this is who Momonosuke is now. Or who knows, he may not be as changed by the end of this arc as a lot of people were expecting, although I think that he's about to do something really cool. We'll talk about it in a moment. There's also some more low-key confirmation that Kinemon and Kiku have died, because Momonosuke thinks of them. Kinemon and Kiku give me strength. I promise I'll do my part, as he has tears in his eyes. It's really curious to me, again, that Oda hasn't officially confirmed that they have died. He's teased it, he has suggested it, but it's like not 100% true yet, if you guys understand me. So I feel like he's saving that, and if you guys have been following my reactions, you know why. Ghost Kinemon. But anyway, we follow a bit of action and we see Momonosuke and Yamato escape from Kaido, and Momonosuke sort of learns how to fly as a dragon, or Oda explains it again. This is another one of those clever bits of transition. As you know, you guys know I'm writing my story right now, and I feel like I pick up on these a little bit better than I did before, of like the proper transition into a subject you want to talk about. So we have Yamato sort of re-explaining the flame clouds to Momonosuke, leading to what Oda really wanted to get to, which was the reveal that the flame clouds are weakening. Kaido himself is weakening. This both introduces the idea of flame clouds to Momonosuke, while also preparing the reader for what may eventually happen, which is that one way or another, Onigashima is going to fall and obliterate the flower capital, which means that Momonosuke, who's being set up here to have the ability to use flame clouds, is going to hold up the island. Momonosuke is getting ready for his Hour of Legends. And here's a visual I want you guys to keep in your head, right? Momonosuke is aged, so if he has an Hour of Legends where he holds up Onigashima, he will do so most likely in dragon form. And then maybe after it's over, he will collapse, exhausted, fall to the ground in his human form, looking like Odin, the original legend, for everybody in Wano to see. If that don't get you hyped up, I don't know. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and it really seems like this is going to happen. It's one of those theories that, just like Momonosuke flying Luffy up to Onigashima, it's going to happen. Odin, Hour of Legends, in the pot of boiling oil, holds up all of his friends. Momonosuke is going to hold up all of his friends on Onigashima using his flame clouds. Now we just need to figure out what his pot of boiling oil is going to be. Or maybe simply using the clouds itself is enough to exhaust Momonosuke, which is fair considering, he's not hasn't really been shown to be particularly strong, right? And it would also hype up Kaido, and it would also explain a lot of what's taking place right now, that he's been fighting, doing all of this while also doing this thing, which we later learn is incredibly difficult. But I guess that I have a few closing thoughts on this idea that I think that are relevant to share. First off, Momonosuke probably looks like Odin. I know that that's simply a theory right now. It could be wrong, but that's the working assumption. And so, because he looks like Odin, it also means that he doesn't look like Momonosuke to the people of Wano, especially those who saw him as a child. Oda actually already kind of low-key set up this expectation because Momonosuke in dragon form went through the castle and everyone's like, Momonosuke? Nah, it can't be Momonosuke, there's no way. So it's possible that Momonosuke doesn't quite get credit for this feat like maybe we think that he will. For instance, it could be possible that the people of Wano presume that this is Odin coming back sort of from the afterlife to save everyone's life. Just something to keep in mind. Another important thing I think that this scene accomplishes as well is that back during the Hour of Legends, and even before then, none of the people of Wano really appreciated the lengths that Odin went to in order to protect them, in order to save them. They didn't appreciate his strength, they mocked him. And it wasn't until his final dying moments that they sort of started to realize. So this almost acts as a moment of redemption for the people of Wano, where rather than jeer Odin, almost root for him to die, they'll cheer on Momonosuke to succeed. Almost the exact opposite reaction from the very start. Or on the other hand, and this is just sort of throwing an idea out into the abyss, how do they know that Momonosuke is actually saving them, right? If he catches the island, how will they know that that isn't just Kaido, and that he's intending on dropping the island on top of them? Maybe they do jeer him just as they jeered Odin before it's explained to him who that is and what he's actually doing. Both of these would be perfect in their own way. Or a third idea, as is sort of explained in the chapter, Yamato's like, we can't let anybody know that this is happening. So maybe Momonosuke has his very quiet Hour of Legends without anybody realizing, which is again perfect in its own way. And this, I think, is really additive with another thought that I had about what seems to be set up here is, Onigashima was set on fire, and earlier we were asking ourselves, why did Oda do that? What did it accomplish? Well, it's making Onigashima the pot, right? And so if Onigashima is the flaming pot, then it's not Momonosuke who's burning in oil, it's Luffy. Luffy fighting Kaido in this boiling pot, metaphorically. And if this takes place over the course of an hour, the true Hour of Legends, as people will probably think about it, will be Luffy versus Kaido, whereas Momonosuke is holding up the pot and people don't realize it. So it's almost like Hour of Legends Inception, where Luffy and Kaido is an Hour of Legends, but then Momonosuke has this low-key moment as well. But yeah, basically the situation is that the island is coming. If it falls, it explodes, everyone dies. If it falls on the island itself, obviously everyone dies. So this is we're clearly about to have something, and it seems pretty telegraphed that Momonosuke is going to hold up the island. I'm hyped up for this, but it won't surprise me at all. What's more interesting is the details that's going to surround this, that I think Oda has a lot of ability to play with and get creative. As of right now, I'm fully expecting to cry. But yeah, that leaves us with the end of the chapter and Zoro vs. King. We find out that Zoro was able to destroy a part of King's mask, and King is not too pleased about that. And so King goes on the offensive and just totally obliterates, it seems like, Zoro, or overmatches him in this moment, and then goes for a killing blow that Zoro narrowly dodges. And he has this to say: "At least let me die by the sword. Show a little respect." A lot of people who read the spoilers felt a certain way about this. It's basically like an implication that Zoro doesn't feel as though he is going to win, that he thinks maybe that King is going to at some point kill him. That's really interesting if true. A lot of people were really mad about this for some reason. I'm not sure if I understand that, but I would say that I still totally believe that Zoro is going to find a way to defeat King. Now, what's most interesting for me, with this being sort of my baseline assumption, is what happens after that, right? Because he's taking these steroid pills, he's going to be very close to death, and I think that there'll still be things going on. So it's kind of what I think about this. But it is interesting that Zoro isn't as confident or doesn't appear that way. But Zoro says show a little respect, and King says the same thing at the end. I'd ask the same of you. So King determined it to be disrespectful that Zoro destroyed his mask. It seems like we're primed here very shortly for a King flashback and exposition about his race. It's basically establishing that there's a reason that he wears a mask, there's some sort of importance to it, and Zoro didn't respect that. But as of right now, I mean, I think that any speculation, whatever's going to happen, it's going to be really specific, and I don't think that it's really worthy of speculating, so I'm just kind of excited to see where Oda goes with that. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I had to say about the chapter. Thought it was a very good chapter. My big takeaway really is just be patient. There's still more story left to be had. I think, I've been pretty honest with you guys about my thoughts that if Luffy just goes Gear 5th and wins versus Kaido, then the arc ends, right? That won't sit well with me. I think that we do need more story, we need more twists and turns, we need more stakes, we need some crazy stuff to happen to really pull off this arc. And so I have a lot of ideas for what those may be, and it may not seem likely now, but the moment before a twist happens is usually when it's hardest to believe that is consistent within the story. Time and time again, Oda does that, and so that's kind of where I'm at. Another thing that people have sort of forgotten about is Big Mom is here, and we still don't have a concrete plan of how to deal with her. I think that we're gonna have an Hour of Legends, and I think after the Hour of Legends, there's gonna be some crazy stuff. That's what I think. But as always, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.